Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola with mixed fortunes in the Champions League in midweek, but they've been talking ahead of their Premier League matches. We'll hear from them both next. Hello, welcome back to Friday's Premier League today. Now, hot on the heels of their Champions League victory, Manchester United play Wolves at Old Trafford this weekend. Here's what Jose Mourinho had to say about his opposite number, Nuno Espirito Santo.
Nuno reached this Premier League level, and he reached by his own merit and credit. He didn't come direct to the Premier League, he came to the Championship. So he earned the right to be a Premier League manager, and fantastic work. The result speaks by itself. I think the team as a team is resolving the defensive problems better than before. I don't want to say was Bailly or Jones and this now Smalling or Lindelof. I think the team is more compact, is more solid. The spirit, the cooperation, the empathy, the communication, all of that improved in the team, and good results bring confidence, and I think we are improving as a team. I don't want to say that our improvement has the name of Chris or Victor. The team is playing better, and of course they are part of the team that played well in these matches.
Well, he certainly looks like a manager who's on the crest of a wave, doesn't he?
I thought they played very, very well against Watford, which could have been really sticky for them, but they did play very well. This will be a tough game for them, because I think it's one of the games, if you're Wolves and you're a Wolves player, especially when you look at the fixture list, this is one of the games you want to play against the big teams with the big players at the big stadium, and I feel that it's going to be a tough game for United.
As far as Manchester United, we talked at the start of the programme about the effect that winning in the Champions League could have. And yes, it was against young boys, which is not the toughest of opponents. But the fact that so many of their top players played in that, and you did make changes, but so many of the top players played well, how much of an effect can that have at the weekend?
Well, definitely a positive effect. The first half performance wasn't that convincing, but they didn't concede a goal, they kept a clean sheet, and I think that is, in a way, Mourinho's dream performance. You don't give anything away, you don't concede, you're really compact, defensive. There was no coincidence that he was talking about the team's performance rather than the defence, because for him, defence starts at the very top and really depends a lot of what happens on the pitch. But then the idea is the individual quality at one moment or two or three will come to the fore. That has been always his idea of football and his game plan, and it is a very effective one. It's not always so easy playing that system with players who perhaps naturally favour a more expensive style or want to go for it, and maybe the Man United fans, because of their history, favour slightly more expensive football as well. But I think he's been slowly improving the team, and perhaps he gets a bit of unfair stick because we compare him and the team to what happened at Man United before. But I think deep down he's much more satisfied and happy than he looks at this point.
Yeah, well, he's not giving anything away. No. This is the new Jose. We need to just get used to it and get over it. But this weekend, taking on Wolves, as you said, it could cause them problems, because they're not your typical promoted side, are they?
No, and before Wolves came here, when we knew that they were coming up, we heard about who's in charge and what they're going on and what they're going to do and who they're going to buy, and they have bought quality players. They have got quality players, and they've come into the Premier League to make a stance and impress, and they've done that up to this point. And like I said, this is the kind of game that they'll probably measure themselves against. They've got a free shot here. No one's expecting Wolves to go there, even with their Wolves' brilliant form up to this point as newcomers, to go there and beat Man United. But I think that they are, and we've seen Man United who can start pretty slowly. They can start quickly and catch them on the hop, and then you never know what can happen. And then all of a sudden, you've got a Wolves team who've gone to Man United, and that will then give them momentum to kick on again. It's a great game for Wolves and a good opportunity.
And while Manchester United go into their game off the back of a win in the Champions League, for Manchester City, it was defeat by Lyon. Here are the thoughts of Pep Guardiola.
Some of the players have been on social media this week apologising for the performance on Wednesday against Lyon. How frustrating was it for you to have to watch from the stands and not be able to get involved and make changes and do what you normally do?
Well, the players don't have apologise. Why should apologise for what? They ran, they fought, they tried to make a comeback. That competition punish a lot the mistakes we commit, and the last games when we lost, we make a lot of mistakes and re-mistake and re-mistake in the same action, and when that's happened, they punish us. But they don't have apologise. When they ran, they put everything there, and of course I was banned. I have to accept it, and hopefully next game I can be there.
We know that Pep Guardiola likes to set himself challenges. We know that he almost enjoys, in a slightly masochistic way, the problems that Manchester City have faced in the Premier League and now in the Champions League. How does he fix the problems that have caused them the defeat in the Champions League?
I think it's man management, and we've seen that his man management is excellent. I thought that I still believe whatever anyone says, and Man City fans will probably come for me. I think that the atmosphere in the ground does not help. And I think that he would be worried about that. I think the fact that Mikel Arteta mentioned it says that they're talking about it. They do need that support. But when he said about the players and why should the players apologise, he said they put effort in. But it's not the kind of effort and the game that we've seen, like we're watching them here, how vibrant, how quick and how strong they are in the Premier League. And I think that is the worry for me, watching them, how they weren't able to play like this and play like we know that they can, and it's almost like a weakness. But I think they've got the right manager who's going to make sure that they get that right.
Well, Guardiola never accepts anything less than perfection, and even after this 3-0 win, he was hugely critical of his team. He was saying we were doing the wrong things, we didn't pass properly, we didn't make the right runs, we kept the ball too little or too much, and then they go and put in such a anemic performance against Lyon, where you just felt the attitude wasn't quite right, there was not enough pace. You know, you play possession football without tempo, without any running, without any pressing, and it's nothing.
No.
I don't think City can play as badly like that many times because there's just simply too much quality there. But I think he'd be very, very upset that after warning about all these things, about their complacency, City actually go and do it again and lose. I don't think the opposition this weekend will be able to capitalize on that slackness. I think, if anything, Cardiff's very cavalier style will really help City regain some of that joy on the ball, the enjoyment that they have in passing and exploiting the space. But it is a concern for Guardiola. If you say one thing exactly before warning your players, then they go on to do exactly that.
Yeah.
So what do they do then against Cardiff?
Well, I think they just play their natural game because, like you say, Cardiff are not going to have a lot of the ball, so they will do what they do. They probably sit deep. You know, I'm sure Warnock will probably say, "Well, what do you expect us to do against Manchester City? We can't compete with them." And then it's going to come down to how Manchester City can pull them around and pass the ball at pace, quick tempo, to try and exploit the fact that they are a much better team, and then see if they can get the goals that you're going to need, which I think they probably will.
But Cardiff, as you said, it's predictable what Cardiff are going to do. That doesn't always make it easy to deal with.
It doesn't make it easy to deal with, and I think that we've seen Pep last season, especially in certain games, when teams did make it really difficult for Manchester City, how happy he was. And we've seen as well, even in the dressing room now, which we were able to see, how happy they are when they do stick to their game plan, continue to play and play at a pace and a tempo that they train to do and beat these teams, because they know that these teams are going to try and get a draw, but they break them down and they do it in the end. And that's why I feel we've seen him celebrate and he's so happy, because they've stuck to their guns.
I think if you're Cardiff, you say, should we really sit back and wait for them to just pass us to death, or should we actually do what Lyon did and press really high and see if they're just a little bit off? If we can win the ball in high spaces, we can cause them real trouble. City have not quite, or they certainly did not play with the same amount of control and almost invincibility that they had last season. And
Against Lyon?
Against Lyon, for sure.
Do you think as well that was because Lyon and the offensive power that Lyon had with the pace and the skill that they had, that would frighten you. Whereas you look at Cardiff, I don't think they've got that caliber player that's going to frighten City.
No, of course. But if you press them really high and you win the ball back in the final third of City, I think you have a better chance than defending really deep. And then if you win the ball back, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Do you have players that can then really
open them
expose them on the break? I'm not sure. I think they might just go for it.
That would be tough, simply because for them to continue to keep that pressure on, it will play into City's hands.
Be an interesting one to see how that one works out. We'll get your thoughts on how you think that's going to go at the weekend. On to West Ham. Now they are finally off the mark. They're off the bottom of the table. So has Manuel Pellegrini finally found his winning formula?
No, there's not a winning formula. I think that we start that game with those players because during the week we work very well with them. The formula is try to play well. It's the best way to win the most amount of games, and we must try to improve all what we did on last Sunday against Everton. I think always the players have an opportunity to play. The important when they have the chance to take that chance. I think that Declan did it very well, as Pedro Bian did very well. So once again I repeat that we have a squad. We need all the players because all the players have different moments during the season. You never know which will be fit from one game to other, but you know that you need maximum demand of the 22 players or 23 players that we have in the squad. Well, of course, it's impossible to start better than Chelsea. They won the 5 games, but every game is different in the Premier League. So we must be confident that we can play here against at home or away in the same way we try to do it in the last game. We need to be very concentrated in defending because they have very good players that make the difference in small space. But I'm confident that our team can play a very good game against them.
But he's very confident ahead of this game, Manuel Pellegrini. He says that his team can play well and can get the result. But he's not confident that he's sort of unlocked the key, has he?
And yeah, it was a good
key to unlock it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, of course, you know, they needed that win. I think that the confidence was draining out of them, and I thought it was a pretty good win. But they're coming up against a Chelsea side I feel are starting to click into gear, and their main man, Hazard, you know, he's just totally free, no shackles, in respect of defensive responsibilities. And I feel like, for me now, they're coming up against Chelsea at a time where it's just starting to happen. You know, even, you know, someone like Willian coming up.
But how frustrating for West Ham, though. They finally managed to get the win against Everton, and then their next game is against a Chelsea side with a 100% record. What did they do right in this game?
Well, when you look at them, there's a lot of energy. Look how many people trying to get forward there. You can see that, and then, you know, now, and then Yarmolenko, but he's had a lot of stick for the fact that he's been signed. Of course, it does help when you get the England goalkeeper doing stuff like that. And then, you know, you've got someone engaging. Look at them, nothing, not engaging. So you're looking at an Everton side that they've made it a little bit more easy for West Ham, but this is what the Premier League's about. This is why it's such an amazing league, is that a team that hasn't even got a point, if you do not get tight and you not do your stuff, they will beat you, and that is why the league is so competitive, and that's what West Ham have shown. Everton probably would have went into that game thinking, yeah, West Ham, they're nowhere near it, this and that. And they've relaxed in their minds, and West Ham have totally answered them. And they're going to have to do the same against Chelsea. They're going to have to keep Chelsea under pressure, otherwise they will be beat.
Well, Yarmolenko afterwards said that we finally played as a team. I just wonder if the result perhaps flattered the performance a little bit. Everton created quite a few chances. You look at the expected goals, dare I say it, and actually the quality of the chances that Everton created was better over the 90 minutes than West Ham. So it could just be that, for once, things just fell for them in the game. Things that didn't go their way in previous games. But I'm still not concerned. I'm still a little bit concerned, just like Pellegrini himself, that they haven't actually solved all the riddles and have worked out how
They can't do that in one game, can they?
No, they can't. But I fear for them. The one thing they've got for them is that Chelsea have had a very difficult trip back from Greece. I think their plane was delayed. They only come back on Friday, as a Friday afternoon, so they have very little time to prepare for this game. But still, you think that Chelsea have far too much against this West Ham team. So it's going to be a difficult one.
Have West Ham then managed to become a little bit more secure with using Rice and Obiang, and they've changed? Because it was at the start of the season, particularly the game against Liverpool, where Mark Noble and Jack Wilshere came in for a lot of criticism.
Yes, and it is a little bit more stable, but still, you say that you can see that they're close and how close they are, and you've got Rice is in the right position there. You know what I mean? And you've got Obiang kicking, going forward, and that's what you want. You want somebody to make sure that the back door's closed. You see where Rice is here, really good position. He's taken up, and they're going to need to do that. They're going to need to do that against Chelsea, because they will. That is the area where Chelsea can dominate and find space and then go to cause problems. We've seen Eden Hazard do that. Then when you've got the kind of pace up front, like Arnautovic, who, when he is willing and ready, you know what I mean, you can spring and stretch teams. You're going to cause problems, and there you see them again in a great area. Look at him there. See, that's what they need. They need that, and them two have got pace, and they've got legs, as we say in the game. They've got legs, and they're going to need them. They're going to need them. Well, yeah. Especially if you're going to play football for a living.
That would definitely help.
Yeah.
We'll start with the basics here, but of course West Ham did even more than that when they played Chelsea last season. That was the game after which Antonio Conte did concede the title and said that Chelsea didn't have a chance of going to do it. And in what was a difficult season for West Ham, they did manage to pull off occasionally those good results.
It's a massive London derby. It's a big game, and West Ham were very much up for it. And Arnautovic played very well on the day, and you know, Morata, it was a game where he missed some really, really good chances. The kind of chances that when you're not playing well, like Chelsea didn't particularly play great in that game, you need those chances to then settle you down so then you can get into yours. It didn't quite happen. And on the day, you know, West Ham, the fans and the players played pretty well. And then Arnautovic was with that vein of form where he was the one who was nicking the goals and changing games for them. So they're going to need the same kind of thing.
For Chelsea, though, they conceded the title after this game last year, but this time around, they weren't really talked about too much at the start of the season and in pre-season, but having started as well as they have, are they now title challengers, if maybe not contenders?
Yeah, I'm still not sure they have quite enough to go that far, but I was always of the opinion that Sarri would have a huge impact, because having seen his Napoli team and see what he could do with far less talented players, to take a Chelsea side that were initially built for that kind of football before Mourinho came back. Remember, Abramovich wanted Guardiola to take over Chelsea, so a lot of these players are actually possession-type players geared for that very Sarri ball that he's now trying to play. It would make for a very, very interesting and effective combination. But my but is here that they need a lot of midfielder scoring, because the central striking position is still a little bit up in the air. If you can get Hazard to do what Salah did for Liverpool last season, or what De Bruyne did in terms of the impact overall, then it might be enough. But I'm just worried that they haven't got the centre forwards to sustain a title challenge.
Absolutely right. If Morata could even chip in with 10, 15 with the form that Chelsea have got, and you see, we saw Willian. You know, Willian came off the bench there. Pedro is always, for me, I love Pedro. They can challenge. Of course, they're going to challenge. Whether or not they can challenge to the levels that I think Liverpool are going to challenge, I don't think so. But Chelsea are not going to be a million miles away.
Well, you talk about Eden Hazard and the striking situation at Chelsea. Olivier Giroud and Hazard seem to have set up some kind of a decent relationship off the pitch. But how important will Giroud be against West Ham, a team that he has a really excellent record against? We asked a Chelsea legend.
Well, Olivier he came on very well, and to be honest, it's no surprise for me that Eden likes him very much, because he can play off him, he can use him as a target and move off him, which is the best quality he got. It is very similar to the way I used to play with Mark Hughes. I used to use him a lot, and it was fundamental for my game. So I'm pleased for Olivier also, because he works hard. He's got a very good attitude, and hopefully, you know, he'll continue to give us big contribution.
West Ham are off the mark.
it's a team that we need to be very careful because although they have only 3 points, they have a lot of quality, especially in the front players. Arnautovic, Anderson, and so many Yarmolenko, so many good quality players. So we will have to play a A game if we want to get points. But at the same time, we can say, we are in a good role. We are full of confidence, so we go there with a lot of expectations.
Well, Gianfranco Zola says they're in a good moment. They clearly are. 5 straight wins at the start of the season. But this weekend, coming up against West Ham in a London derby, just a note of caution, do you think, for Chelsea?
Well, I think so, because it is a derby, and when you play in the derbies, there is a different atmosphere. The West Ham fans will be very much up for it, especially with them getting the first 3 points against Everton. But they're going to just have to be about themselves, because Chelsea are very confident. They're in confident mood, and they should be, because they've played well up to this point. And I think that Hazard seems to be on the road of having a very good season. And if that's the case, anyone's going to be in trouble. And so it's going to be a very tough game for West Ham.
Could be a tough game for West Ham. It's been a tough season for 2 teams in the Premier League who only have 1 point so far. One of them, Newcastle. The other one, perhaps more surprisingly, is Burnley. But will exiting the Europa League have an upturn in form for Burnley? We'll ask Sean Dyche next. Hello, welcome back to Friday's Premier League Today. The 2 longest-serving managers in the Premier League go head-to-head this weekend. It's Burnley against Bournemouth. It's Sean Dyche against Eddie Howe. Here's what they had to say.
It has definitely been a challenge. We've never denied that. That mixed with different days of playing. Don't forget, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, including the Thursdays in the early part of that spell. So I think there's a number of different things. But most of all, by the way, never forgetting it's about us. It's about our own performance levels. Don't let me misguide you with that. It's about us performing properly and correctly as we do and as we look to do, and we certainly haven't in a couple of the games, not all of them, because we've been good in some of the games recently. The score hasn't gone our way, but the performance has. But over time, the performance I've always believed is key. So that's the thing, get back to performing at the top of our game, and consistently as well, both throughout a 95 minutes and on a weekly basis. And that's really where we haven't quite found our feet yet. We've been up and down a little bit during games and on a weekly basis, so we've got to correct that, of course.
It's been a good start, no denying that. I think we're at this stage we're happy with what we've done and what we've delivered, but I think there's more to come from the team. I think we've got better performances in us. Individuals can do better, so although it's been good to this point, I think I'm still looking for the team to grow.
I don't worry about records and all that. I concern myself with the team, how it's performing, how the individuals are performing. Is it moving forward? Is it being effective? They're the things we've got to change. Because it's not a lack of effort, but it's not been. There's been a couple of performances that are not like us, and I think that's the thing that I've been really looking and speaking to the players about, because you've got to have a. I mean, I don't like using some modern trendy words, but a DNA, if you like. You've got to have a feel of how your group operate, and we certainly have here. And we've kind of, we've come away from that, and there's been reminders of it. There's been a couple of very good performances where we should have dealt with the opposition, for sure. And we haven't, but there's been a couple of spells when I go, no, that's not like us, and that's not what we're about. So I think we definitely have to work hard to get back to that as a minimum. And then once we do that, then you're looking at that consistency, as I spoke about during the performance, to go and win games.
They're a very, very difficult team to beat, a very disciplined team. They all know their roles, very strong. They stick to their style of play, so this is going to be a tough game for us, I've got no doubt about that. And Burnley, I don't think, will be in that position for long.
What do you think? Will Burnley be in that position for long?
I think when you listen to their manager, he's brilliant. He's a great manager, and he knows that the being in the Europa League has caused them a little bit of problems to their squad. You have to say, and yeah, you have to say that Eddie Howe is going to say that. But I think that Eddie Howe will look at them, and if he's seen the last few games that they have played, and I know they've had a little bit of rest through the international break, he will see that there is a lot of deficiencies in them at the minute. They're not as intense and as tight and as potent as they've been. And so it is a good time to play them, even at home. But saying that, that Sean Dyche and the way he can get his teams going, something's going to change soon. Something will change for them. And maybe he's looking at this game Bournemouth at home as that game.
Quite easy to say the Europa League has cost them a little bit of their intensity because they're playing more matches, there's more travelling involved in it. Do you think that dropping out of it will help them?
Difficult to say. I think a team of Burnley's stature and squad depth probably can do without those games. I think as a club it would have been hugely exciting to go into Europa League. But when your game is geared on work rate and running more than the opposition and perhaps just giving that little bit extra because you know you can't get out of it playing football, Sean Dyche would probably think this is not the worst thing in the world. They were no longer involved. The question is, why have they dropped off? Why have all the things that worked? They were quite deep last year. They conceded a lot of possession. They managed to put more blocks in than everybody else. Yeah. Why are these things not happening? Even last year, people I know from the sort of analytics community were scratching their heads trying to work out what made Burnley so effective.
Overachieve?
And because they faced a lot of shots last season and it's continued this time around.
You think they were overachieving last year?
It's impossible to say. I mean, whatever they did, it clearly worked. It was a very unique and strange way of doing it because sort of they do all the things that are usually connected with struggling.
Yes.
And they're doing the same thing again. And for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. Now, is that just sort of the odds catching up with them? Or is it that bit of percentage, one or two are missing this year?
And they had so many 1-0 wins, which shows you the fine margins that they're operating. And it only takes a small tilt in the opposite direction.
If Burnley don't keep a clean sheet, I don't think they have any realistic chance of winning many games because they're not going to score a lot of goals. So keeping a clean sheet is basically the basis of absolutely everything they do. Once they go behind, they really struggle.
I think as well, Kels, you know, as much as it's such a long time ago, them starting the season like they did last season against Chelsea and beating them so convincingly, that gave them such a momentum and a confidence at the start that it literally they went through the whole season off of it. You know, they knew that they were capable of beating teams when they went away from home and played their game. Plus, they had players playing well. Whether it was Barnes and Vokes and people like that were playing well. Hendrick was playing well. They had, you know, we saw the emergence of Tarkowski really and Ben and me next to him. And so they had a lot of players playing very, very well. Nick Pope, the goalkeeper. So this season, it's not happening. They're not playing as well and they're not as intensified. So teams are seeing that that's an opportunity to get at them and they've got at them. And now we're going to see what Burnley are made of. Because
they're taking on a Bournemouth side who are in 5th place after 5 games.
Well, you see, Eddie Howe, again, he's another manager. The team know exactly what they're doing. They've got pace in the team. They've got goal scorers in the team. And I've got to say, Leicester were terrible in this game. But, like, at the same time, they got really severely dealt with a Bournemouth team at home who were really rampant. They really did put them to the sword. And I think that they blasted Leicester. And I didn't think Leicester were expecting it to a certain extent, and that was surprising for me.
The idea that Bournemouth are following this very strict pattern, or this very clear message that Eddie Howe is communicating to them, it is similar to what Sean Dyche does, but in a very different way. Often you think of players who are given quite a sort of set formula that it is going to be direct and it is going to be predictable, but Bournemouth is much more creativity within that, isn't there? Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, they have a very solid structure because without that, a team like Bournemouth cannot survive. But based on that structure, then there's a lot of freedom and there's a lot of self-expression, and the movement is very exciting. And difficult to say, sitting from here, how much of that is down to looking at specific patterns on the training ground or just very good players knowing instinctively, I'm going there, the other guy goes there, you know, a lot of understanding by playing together. But it starts with a great organisation. And I think the fact that Bournemouth are still here after all those years, and we've almost not talk about them because we just kind of assume that they're going to be fine and not in any real danger, is a real credit to the manager, because it is really a minor miracle that he pulls off every single year. And we've, I think, become too used to it to really appreciate just the good work he's doing there. We'll bring you Wrighty's predictions in just a couple of minutes after we've heard from the rest of the Premier League managers who've been speaking to the media today.
You know, it's a difficult thing from a manager's point of view. Do you try and shut shop up? You know, and the chances are you are going to get beat anyhow. I think they're a unique team. I know Liverpool and Chelsea are good. I still think this is a team that have got everything in the locker, really. So it is a real test for you as a team.
All I know about Benitez is that he works very hard to organise his teams, to get them playing the best football they can play, and to get the best result they can get every game. And I have every empathy and every understanding of that, because that's what I've also been trying to do for the last 43 years.
We want to win. Obviously, we want to get 3 points in every game, but especially after these first games against the top sides, you know that you can be a little bit closer of these teams. Doesn't mean that it's easy, but at least a little bit closer. So if you do well, you have more chances to win. Then you try to win. If you cannot win, obviously a draw is not bad. But our idea is to go there trying to get 3 points. That's it.
For me, it's an honor that Mourinho speaks about me. But it's not about me. The game is about Wolves against Man United. So tomorrow, what we're going to face is 2 good teams of football trying to achieve the best result possible.
They didn't win one important match, but maybe this is the reason they are more dangerous against us, because they need also here to show their supporter they are better than the last match, and they want they can lost against West Ham. They want to show us, or to show the supporter they can win here.
It's one more game, and we prepare and we work in the same way. Of course, we play against strong side. It will be tough for us for sure, but we have to play in our best level. To compete in that level is something you want to put our team ready to compete against all our opponents, and it's something you have to do. Of course, it will be tough for sure, but we have to play in our best level.
Right then, time to get the predictions. You've put your brain cells to the test, and this is what you've come up with. Starting with the early kickoff, Fulham against Watford. You've gone for a 2-0 win for Watford because...
I just think they're in great form at the moment. And they need to start the game well. They don't seem to start games pretty well, but they finish them pretty well. And I think that they're just going to have a little bit too much. They've got a lot of players playing well at the moment. This is a game they'll probably fancy winning.
Bournemouth to get the better of Burnley, which we've discussed.
Yep.
Manchester City 5-0 against... I'm not laughing at Cardiff, I'm laughing because there's always a high-scoring one.
Well, teams like that, I always give City that many goals, because they'll give me a run for my money. I think they'll get at least 3, and if they do, they'll probably go to the 5. But I can't see what Cardiff are going to do to cause them problems, apart from try to stalemate it out.
That defeat, if it does happen for Newcastle, if they're beaten 3-1 by Crystal Palace, that's worrying times, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
They've
so.
only got 1 point all
Yeah,
season.
I know, but I think that when you look at the players he's got and the quality he's got, it's going to be very tough for Rafa, and that's why Rafa keeping him in there and doing what he's doing. It's remarkable what he's doing. He's not got the calibre and the quality, and that showed for Arsenal in the second half of the last game. They just didn't have the quality.
You've got Leicester back on some form, 2-0 win for them against Huddersfield.
Yeah,
Liverpool
Huddersfield can't
to beat
score.
Southampton 3-0.
Yes.
You nearly went for 3-1, didn't you?
Yeah, but then I realised that Danny Ings can't play. And you reminded me of that, so that was brilliant.
Manchester United 2-1 against Wolves. That's quite close.
It's quite close, and I was really close to giving Wolves something out of the game, because you don't know what Man United are going to turn up. I know they're playing OK at the minute.
But this is the one.
Yeah.
People will be sitting at home going, having read ahead of this, going, what?
Really? I think that is a game that Brighton will fancy, simply because set pieces and the goalkeeper. And I just feel that I was thinking 2-2, but then I think, you know what, I'm going to go 3-2 to Brighton.
You're going to save that for Arsenal. Why do you think Brighton can win it then?
I just think that what we've seen that they're capable of doing, what we saw them do against Arsenal there, what we've seen them do Man United there, and Tottenham going there in their current form will be a game that they will fancy. Chris Hughton will have them very much up for the game, and I think set pieces could be a problem for Tottenham.
And more misery at the London Stadium for West Ham.
Yeah, because I think that Chelsea and Hazard, they're playing well. I think it will be a tough game, because Arnautovic looks like he's back on the kind of form that's going to cause them problems. We saw with Rice and Ogbonna, they look like they're organised there, but just think Chelsea are going to have too much.
Very briefly, 2-2 between Arsenal and Everton.
Yeah, I think that Everton and Silva, so he really worries me how good he is and how good he can be. And I think they'll know enough about us, especially with Theo, to cause us problems.
Loads of good games coming up in the Premier League this weekend, as always. Thank you very much to Ian. Thank you very much to Raf. We'll be back at the same time next weekend to look at the next round of fixtures. In the meantime, enjoy this weekend and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.